So let me tell you about my trip to Dubai last year. I was riding through the streets of Dubai and looking around and realizing, why are all these buildings so modern? So I turned to my friend Hossam and said, why are there no old buildings in Dubai? And he said, well, the answer is simple. The United Arab Emirates is a country that's only 40 years old. The country really is that modern. So that created the challenge and the question for our next presentation, which is to answer the question, how much has Dubai changed in the last 40 years? To answer this, please welcome Peter Becker.
Thanks, John. So let me show you. Here, a map of Dubai with recent Landsat imagery. Let me zoom into the old part of Dubai and change time back to 1975. Dubai, a small coastal town, a single runway. By the year 1990, it had expanded, the town as well as the runway. By the year 2000, further expansion and more vegetation. Let's highlight that. We can see there's coastal development, and by the year 2000, they had built massive islands in the form of palm trees out into the Gulf. By the year 2010, further development along the coast. But what if we want to actually measure this change? Well, I can use this tool, define an area of interest, and the system now computes the areas, returning for me that in 1975 it was all barren land. By the year 2000, about 4 kilometers of urban growth. By 1942, by the year 2010, over 40 kilometers of urban growth. Vegetation had increased, and interestingly, the water area had actually gone down by about 12 kilometers due to the development of the palms. Now, what is the basis of this application? Well, there are 3 key things here. 1, the World Landsat services. 2, the ability for ArcGIS server to perform dynamic classification, and the integration of these geoprocessing tools into a web application. So let me show this to you in ArcGIS Desktop 10.1 that many of you already have. Here, I can search online for Landsat imagery. This returns me the newly released Landsat services. They have been extended to include the new GLS 2010 data from the USGS, as well as additional radiometric corrections and additional visually enhanced services. I can add these directly to ArcGIS Online, and they're available for you to use today. This service is a service that actually shows one of the capabilities of 10.1 to enable a single service to have multiple products. Here, I can pick the visualization analysis, and you will see the enhanced visual quality of these services. Let's zoom into Dubai. The server performs the processing, returning me the required product. And from within desktop, I can add additional enhancements. For example, add a dynamic range adjustment. As in the web application, we can use time and go back and have a look at what did Dubai look like in the year 2000, or move back forward to the year 2010. Now, although this is a seamless image service, I can actually get information about the actual pixel values, as well as meta information about the individual scenes. Now, a new capability that we're adding in 10.1 is for ArcGIS server to perform dynamic processing or dynamic classification. And to show this, I'm going to bring in this local server connection, and we'll see similar services based on the same imagery. If we now look at the products available, mind you, I can get to see, for example, this land-water interface, or go and have a look at a full class land use. These same services I can then use in a geoprocessing tool. Here, I bring it up. It allows me to define the service as input, allows me to define an area of interest, And then this will be processed. The tool is making multiple requests to that service. The server is dynamically calculating that classification, returning the classification results to the geoprocessing tool, which then gets the statistics and generates the required reports. As soon as these are completed, they can be displayed. This same geoprocessing service is then shared with the web application to enable the dynamic reports. So I've shown how the extensive imaging capabilities within ArcGIS 10.1 can be used to measure the growth of Dubai. But we know Dubai has also grown with a lot of tall buildings. And to show you how we can measure the vertical growth, let me introduce you to Vinay Vishwambram from the Software Development Group.
Thanks, Peter. So you just saw analysis and classification done at a city scale. I want to show you characterization of change at a finer level of detail. To do this, I need high-resolution imagery. So here's a worldview scene over the area of Dubai. I received this as raw, unprocessed TIFF files on disk. Now, one of the biggest improvements we've made in ArcGIS 10.1, the system leverages the metadata that's provided, and it can define products automatically. So as I drag my pan-sharpened product into map, the system pan-sharpens, orthorectifies, and creates a visually good-looking product on the fly. The best is yet to come. So this is the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world. It's an amazing structure, and that's some beautiful imagery to complement it. But that's obviously not the most intuitive view of the tallest building in the world. Using the sensor model information, we can now rotate my view and get a better perspective. Leveraging the sensor model information and using the meta information, we've improved the analytical capabilities of ArcGIS even more. You can now make measurements off of your imagery. You can base it off the sensor geometry, from the bottom of the structure to the top of the structure, or you can make shadow-based measurements, from the tip of the shadow, tip of the spire, to the tip of the shadow. When characterizing change, you typically work with historical imagery. A common problem faced when working with historical imagery, your imagery doesn't line up. Let's navigate over to another place in Dubai. So here I have an older image. As you can see, the change is not quite obvious, but our problem with the image misalignment is a lot more obvious. These roads, they don't quite line up. ArcGIS 10.1 can fix this. We have this magic button. No, seriously, you like this. I'll bring up the georeferencing toolbar. I'll hit it, and I'll tell you what it does. You've got to like this. The system is computing tie points between the two images. It's adjusting the images to fit automatically. Now, this is great for the historical imagery that I'm dealing with. And like I told you, it's a very simple workflow. Press a button, pick your images, no tie points, no control points, no checkpoints. There's no complexities the user needs to deal with. Just like that, it fits. You can now compare the two images, automatic georeferencing. We can now navigate back over to the Burj, compare the two images, lines up perfectly, but 5 years, that is a lot of change. But if you notice, much of the change is tall buildings, a lot of vertical growth. Vertical growth equates to massive change in floor area. Now, to compute change in floor area, or to quantify change, you need to measure building heights. So as I zoom out to the extent of Dubai, you can see that's a lot of data collection that I have to do and a larger collection of images to deal with. So here's where the mosaic data set comes in. Now that's a lot of imagery. It's processed on the fly, and it's fast. As I zoom out to the extents of the Middle East, 2,500 scenes, GOI scenes, 2.5 terabytes of imagery. It's processed on the fly. I've shown you all of this functionality. I've shown it to you in desktop. But ArcGIS, it's a system, which means we can wrap all of this functionality into a rich, focused web application, and I can crowdsource my data collection task to a larger group of people. So here's my web application. I've hosted it on my organizational account on ArcGIS Online. As I bring it up, the application lets me measure building heights and other attributes. And just like in desktop, from the tip of the building to the tip of the shadow, I can attribute my building. Image services, like all of ArcGIS, is time aware, which means I can actually step through these images in time. And you can see this structure was first observed in 2009. On the right-hand tab, I have my reports populated. I have other statistics as well. So to answer John's question, how much has Dubai changed over the years? The city has changed a lot. With 96% of buildings captured by my organization, the approximate increase in the total floor area, 190 square kilometers. But John, why just numbers? Using these measurements, I can actually show you what it looks like. So here's the beautiful city of Dubai at night.